I'm Sana Zafar and you're watching Stars of NUST. हम आपको मिलवाते हैं NUST के brilliant graduates से from all over the world. आज भी हमें एक बहुत special guest ने join किया है from Michigan. And I'm very excited and also slightly nervous for today's interview, and both for the very same reason, because with his brilliance and his achievements, calling him a star is probably an understatement. हमारे साथ हैं Dr. Azeem Sarwar. Assalamu alaikum, Dr. Azeem. Thank you for joining us.
Walaikum assalam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh, Sana. Thanks for having me over.
Dr. Azeem ने NUST से graduate किया back in 2000 when he completed his degree in mechanical engineering from College of EME with a CGPA of 4. Let that sink in. Currently, he is staff data scientist at General Motors. आइए से मिलते हैं. Thank you so much. आपने time निकाला और काफी देर से हम coordination की कोशिश कर रहे थे. Finally, it's happening. I'm very glad. Thank you for your patience and coordination all along.
Likewise, likewise. Thank you.
So before we go into details of all your brilliance and professional journey and everything, mashallah, I want to start with a very formal and very serious question. आप बचपन में क्या खाते थे?
I can tell you कि मैं क्या नहीं खाता था. That would be a shorter answer probably. Shalgam were off the menu, and I would protest very strongly whenever Lajan Sheikh Pirami पकाया करती थी. So
मैं भी नहीं खाती थी, but मेरा कोई GPA पे भी नहीं आया. फिर चले, maybe it will be helpful to some mothers. My kids are very young as well. प्लीज आते हैं आपकी प्रोफेशनल जर्नी की तरफ. बताइएगा कहाँ से कब स्टार्ट हुआ, how did all of this happen?
Sure. So I'm not one of those kids जो बचपन से फर्स्ट क्लास में आते रहे हैं. इनफैक्ट मैं कभी भी क्लास में फर्स्ट नहीं आया था. अम्मी की ख्वाहिश थी कि मैं फर्स्ट आऊँ क्लास में थ्रू आउट मैट्रिक एंड इवन एफएससी. और उसमें मेरा हमेशा एक्सक्यूज होता है कि देयर इज अ वेरी स्मार्ट गाय इन द क्लास एंड अनलेस ही लीव्स इट्स नॉट गोना हैपन. तो मम्मी कहा करती चलो सेकंड ही आ जाओ. तो मेरा जनरली जवाब यही होता था कि भाई सेकंड आने में वो मजा नहीं जो फर्स्ट आने में. तो long story short, I was able to make it to Cadet College Hassan Abdal for my FSC. और वहाँ मेरे पेरेंट्स ने मुझे दाखिल करवा दिया. उसकी फीस बहुत ज्यादा थी. It was like beyond the means of my parents, and I knew कि they were stretching themselves to make sure that I go there, and that's probably the first time in my life I felt responsible. So I had to do some sort of justification with their investment, and I started to study very hard. कभी पहले तो पढ़ाई की नहीं थी, तो पढ़ना भी नहीं आता था. It took me a while to actually get the hang of it. And another thing that I really realized and that made me aware of the fact कि अल्लाह ताला ने इंसान को in general बहुत ज़्यादा सलाहियतें दी होती हैं, and life is for most part is a journey of self exploration. हसन दाल में बहुत ज्यादा भगाते थे. मतलब सुबह उठ के वो भगा रहे हैं आपको 3 मील यहाँ पे भागे, आप शाम को दोबारा भगा रहे हैं. What I used to love about that was कि when you get tired, your body is done. Your every muscle is aching and telling you to stop. Your mind can always argue that you can go one step further, and you keep playing that game, and you realize by the end of all of it, you have come a long way. Something that you thought that you couldn't do, but you could, and it's all in your head. So there was really a moment of realization for me कि अल्लाह ताला ने आपकी लिमिट जो भी डिफाइन की है वो आपको बताई नहीं है. You are out there to find them yourself, and your race is always with you. It's not with anyone else. आप अपनी रेस खुद रन कर रहे हैं और आपका मुकाबला आप अपने आप के साथ है. And how good you are, you're only going to realize it by pushing yourself. आप जितना भी कर सकते हैं, unless आप उससे ज़्यादा पुश नहीं करेंगे, आपको नहीं पता कि आप उससे ज़्यादा कर सकते हैं नहीं कर सकते. So that was a moment of really turning point in my life where I realized that it really is up to me, and I am defining my limits unless Allah Ta'ala explicitly मुझे ना कहने अजीम ये नहीं हो सकता. So which generally he doesn't do that. which basically means you can, just go on and try whatever you feel like trying. And we are here to set our own limits. Nobody is defining those limits for us. We define those limits for us. Lo and behold, so I got into EME college, और दो सुबह वैगन चेंज करके मैं कॉलेज पहुंचा करता था. And I was sitting with a senior. पहला सेमेस्टर था, didn't have any idea what a GPA is. आप एनुअल सिस्टम से आए होते हैं, आपको पता होता है कितने परसेंटेज मार्क्स हैं and what grade do you get. And I asked that senior, what is the GPA? He started explaining it to me, and then I asked him, okay, what's a good GPA? And he said, well, anything above 3.5 would be a good GPA. And I said, well, what's the maximum? He said 4. I said, okay, can somebody get 4? He said, no, it's not possible. So, okay, that's a goal to chase after. So I started chasing that limit that he was defining for me or for general people. And it was a very interesting journey. I mean, in the beginning, it was all fun, but as time progressed, मेरे से ज़्यादा जो है वो क्यूरियस और इंतजार मेरे दोस्तों को और कुछ सीनियर्स को, कुछ जूनियर्स को होता था, ओके क्या जीपीए आ रहा है. And in those days, हमारा रिजल्ट अनाउंस हुआ करता था ऑडिटोरियम में. जो कमांडेंट होते थे EME के, he would announce the result of every student.
Okay, that's
what
great.
the semester GPA is and what the cumulative GPA is. So there was no hiding. You can't hide whatever good or bad you have. So it was an interesting journey, and I ended up graduating with a 4.0, alhamdulillah. And on a side note here, the student that I always gave my mother an excuse of, he's very smart, and unless he leaves the class, I won't be able to, come first. He was my batchmate in EME and in the same class. So that's a side note. But उसका लुबे लुबा really ये है कि you explore your limits, you define your limits, and unless you are going to keep exploring कि अल्लाह ताला ने आपको क्या gifts दिए हैं, क्या आपको abilities दी हैं, you will not really know how amazing each and every one of us is. And each one of us is amazing. We're all amazing. And unless we are out there to explore, you wouldn't really know what your gifts are, right? And really that's what my life journey has been about, self-exploration. कभी यहाँ पे मुंह मारा, कभी ये चीज एक्सप्लोर की, कभी कोई और चीज एक्सप्लोर की, just to see के what's out there and what am I good at, and what can I get good at. And so far, coming out of EME, still that is the case. Just I consider myself an explorer of myself more than anything else, because I really find it fascinating कि अल्लाह ताला ने इंसान को क्या क्या capabilities दी हैं, और and to know him through your self exploration. That's an amazing thing.
Before we move on to your professional journey, कि आपने फिर कहाँ से job start की and masters and PhD, I do want to respond to whatever you just said. It's very, very interesting, very inspiring, very enlightening, and I'm mostly surprised कि आपने जो भी चीज exploration की आप बात कर रहे हैं and pushing your limits की बात कर रहे हैं, you started doing that at Career College Hassan Abdal, and that's one place जहाँ you are facing the most competition. वहाँ पे मतलब लाइक से लाइक स्टूडेंट्स होते हैं वहाँ पे, प्रॉब्लली आपके स्कूल और किसी में शायद इतने नहीं, सॉरी किसी आपने वहां से की, उससे पहले स्कूल में आपको इतने ज्यादा कंपटीशन आपने फेस नहीं किया होगा जितना आपने वहां किया, एंड स्टिल यू मैनेज डूइंग दैट. दिस इज अमेजिंग माशाल्लाह, एंड यस अ लॉट ऑफ लर्निंग फ्रॉम दिस वेरी जर्नी. प्लीज आगे बताइएगा फिर क्या हुआ.
So well, done with the EME, and then I started to work. In fact, I went to for a job interview at PMO, and Colonel Atiq was heading the hiring process at that time. He told me that I'm not going to hire you. I got, "Kya kami hai sir, bataye mujhe." He said that I would like you to go and go for higher education. Um, so okay, well that's an interesting goal, but I didn't know how to do it. मतलब अगर आपने अपनी जेब से पैसे खर्च करने हैं तो I didn't have that much amount of money, or it took me a while to actually figure that out, how the process works, and उसके लिए एजुकेशन के लिए आपकी पैसे कहाँ से आएंगे. Well, eventually figured out the process. Took my GRE. Took me about like 2 years to get admission here in the US. Alhamdulillah, funding मिल गई थी, पैसे नहीं जेब से खर्च करने पड़े. And then I came over here. Got my master's in mechanical engineering from University of Illinois Urbana Champaign. Control systems is what I was studying. It was a very mathematical field. Took a lot of courses in maths. So many courses I went on to the maths department, told them, "Yeah, fulfills your requirement. Can I get a master's in mathematics too?" I got a master's in mathematics and then a PhD in control systems, all from University of Illinois Urbana Champaign. Or after that, well, my father wasn't really in support of me getting a PhD, given the fact that he had a PhD in mathematics himself. So he said, "Well, math is enough. Don't follow that path." But well, I had to do what I had to do. And then he told me that, "All right, PhD is enough. You've had enough fun with your life. Now get back to work." And said, "No, well, let me try one more thing." So I went for a postdoc at University of Maryland, College Park, जहाँ पे I was now working by engineering, working on magnetic drug targeting, something that I hadn't worked on, didn't know what it was, but it was a fascinating idea where you could, steer the therapy to the area of disorders, especially in cancer patients. The promise was huge. Did a lot of experiments on rats. Somebody coming from mechanical engineering background working on rats, it was kind of an awkward, weird thing. But it was pretty neat because we got some very interesting results. And my postdoc supervisor ended up having a startup out of that. Funding खत्म हो गई. I had to find a way or means to pay the bills. So I joined a startup. Worked there for about 10 months, and then I got an offer from General Motors, something that I could not refuse. And the reason was that I always wanted to be a mechanical engineer growing up because of there was a TV series back in the 80s about Knight Rider. And that's what got me into engineering, the idea of becoming an engineer. And the car that was there in that show was a Pontiac Trans Am, made by General Motors. So for a guy growing up in Pakistan, watching that TV series, getting inspired by it, it was a very difficult task. In fact, I was over the moon when they gave me the offer. So ever since then, I've been working here. Worked for the R&D for 5 years, and then now I'm again venturing into data science for the last 2 years. Again, exploration. We'll see how far does that go.
माशाल्लाह, बहुत interesting, amazing journey है आपकी, and I really appreciate the fact कि आपने हर point ये भी बताया कि how you managed that, how you did it. I hope all of us can learn something from there, especially जो हम मुझ जैसे डरते हैं limits को push करते हुए. आपकी जो सारी जर्नी है, इतनी ब्रिलियंस है माशाल्लाह, इसको आप किसी तरह रिलेट कर सकती हैं अपनी पर्सनालिटी से? हाउ डू यू डिफाइन योर ओन पर्सनालिटी? लाइक वी टॉक्ड अबाउट पुशिंग लिमिट्स, यू हैड दैट इन यू, hard work, giving your best, everything. Overall, do you think there was certain trait that made it happen?
Um, so there are, you know, different things that come together in everybody's life, and whatever we call achievements. उसमें एक एस्पेक्ट होता है सेल्फ कॉन्फिडेंस का, एक होता है सेल्फ बिलीफ का, और फिर then comes in patience and perseverance. You don't always succeed uh, in your first attempt. In fact, if you succeed in the first attempt, then there is a lot of learning that you missed out on, because, well, you know what worked, but you don't know what doesn't work, and what other variations could have worked. So one thing when I was growing up that I know that I had, alhamdulillah, that was focus. I'm able to focus on things, and I can work on things for morning till night if I'm interested, and I can keep my focus. Or उसके अंदर, when I try to dissect that, I realize कि okay, focus कहाँ से आ रहा है? So focus is coming from the fact that I'm enjoying whatever I'm doing. So, and it's well, I could play cricket all day long. I could even play table tennis all day long, and really the backbone of it is I'm enjoying whatever I'm doing, and that's something that I realized pretty early on, that, you know, if I'm going to do something, I'm going to enjoy it. So, but you don't always get to choose, right? Can I get to do what I enjoy? Well, it doesn't always work that way. So figure out a way. How are you going to enjoy doing whatever you are doing? And that makes your life so much easier. Your life becomes easier, and the quality that comes out at the end is also much better. Kyunki, and you end up putting in your heart in it. So usme things like even preparing for GRE, which was very painful for me, I eventually found out a way how to enjoy that, as boring as it might sound. But when I was done preparing for GRE, I was enjoying doing it. So, so really, that is one thing that um, I think, for me personally, is at the heart of के आप कुछ भी कर रहे हैं, bring somehow find a way to enjoy it, dissect it, look at it from different angles, see which aspect you're going to like about it. And sometimes there's this initial phase of boredom, or, you know, anxiety, frustration that you have to overcome. Once you overcome that, and you start to you know, learn things, or get a deeper understanding of whatever you're doing, then it becomes easier to enjoy whatever you're doing. मतलब मैंने अगर बर्तन भी धोने हैं, so I actually have fun doing that, and my wife knows that. So if I'm cutting grass outside, I have fun doing it, because either I do it or I don't do it. If I'm doing it, it's part of my life, and if it's part of my life, I decide whether I'm going to be miserable living that part of life, or I'm going to be happy living that part of my life.
बहुत ही interesting answer है. I wish all of us could do that, what you just said. And on a very, very small level, I can actually relate to it as well with this channel, with the other channel that I'm anchoring and all. I do feel that people often think that, you know, so much coordination and then waiting for people and then this and that, preparation every day, meeting a new person is going to be tiring or something, but I don't find it tiring at all. I think this is one thing that I enjoy the most, whatever I've done in my life, and I somehow find it fulfilling. So I think I can relate on a very small level. Of course, आपके career कहीं और है और मेरा बहुत छोटा है इस particular field में especially. But yes, that is so true that whatever you're enjoying does not tire you, and you end up giving your, if not best, at least relatively better outcome. That's true. नेक्स्ट क्वेश्चन पे मैं आना चाहती हूँ. हम सब के लिए यू आर लाइक एपिटमी ऑफ सक्सेस. how do you think? How do you see success? How do you define success? Do you consider yourself successful?
A very interesting question. Or this is very subjective. It's going to be a very subjective answer based on who's answering this question. So for me, success is defined by Allah, and that's the extent of it. ये end में अल्लाह ताला ही बताएंगे कि whether I've been successful or not. As far as the worldly outlook is concerned, as I said, I consider myself an explorer. So, and I think for the most part of it, I've had fun exploring things and exploring myself. And I am grateful for Allah, to Allah Ta'ala for giving me that opportunity, and giving me that outlook. Or and that's pretty much it. Baki, yeah. So.
Yeah, that's a very humble answer, but so true. Again, very relatable. थोड़ा सा मैं आपकी एक different question पूछना चाहती हूँ, which I usually ask female graduates, but I do want to have the perspective of a successful male as well. जो भी आपकी जर्नी रही प्रोफेशनल लाइफ में, आपने पाकिस्तान में भी पढ़ा, यहाँ आके भी पढ़ा, and now you have been working for such a long time. आपको लगता है the overall environment for females is more conducive than it used to be, or are there still glass ceilings we are fighting for?
Thank you very much for asking this question. Actually, I think I want to highlight something here, and I'll provide a little bit of my personal experience in this regard too. When I was working, when I had my first job, we had a colleague who was gold medalist, and very bright lady. And लेकिन उनके बारे में जो ऑफिस में लोग हमें कहते थे वो कि अभी 5 बजेंगे चली जाएंगी और देखो तुम बैठे हुए 9 बजे तक. Or sometimes I was in the office till 3 or 4 in the morning too. But what and it's kind of sort of in our culture, at least in Pakistan, kind of, we find these examples or these anecdotes, if you will, to reinforce the idea that females are not pulling their weight. What is not highlighted is, well, why does she have to leave at 5? And why can I stay till 9? Well, she has a family. Well, इसका मतलब ये है कि in our culture, males are expecting them to do some other work as well, right? So अगर आप equality की बात कर रहे हैं, you're not giving them the equal opportunity or equal chance to show how brilliant and capable they are, right? And we use that to reinforce this notion that, well, they'll have limitations and they'll have other responsibilities. Well, हमने as a culture वो limitations लगाई हुई हैं, हम expect करते हैं. Let them be as free as males are, and then see how far can they go. So उसमें role जो है वो males का बहुत ज़्यादा है. और उस perception को भी change करने का है कि don't use these kind of experiences to justify कि they will be limited in their careers, right? Or they're lesser achievers for that matter. But what I see is things are changing. Alhamdulillah, they're changing. We have a long way to go. A long way to go. क्योंकि इसमें again, there's a lot of empowerment that has to come. और उसमें और acknowledgement भी है साथ, सिर्फ empowerment नहीं, acknowledgement भी है. Because in the case of the female colleague that I talked about, right? Even if she is going to leave at 5, we should be acknowledging why she is leaving and the responsibilities that she is carrying out, right? We have to acknowledge that, because if we take away that acknowledgement, all of a sudden we start thinking of them as lesser of professionals or lesser of individuals. No, we have to give them the credit for whatever they are doing.
Thank you. I really loved your answer, and I really hope कि बहुत लोग इस चीज से agree करें. And आपके question में से बल्कि एक kind of a side note, not directly related, I want to comment that why in Pakistan, I don't know how things are right now, why in Pakistan it's considered that somebody is working beyond the time limit they are supposed to work is working more. Shouldn't it be about the productivity? Maybe she's staying there till 5 and giving her best. Not saying that anybody who's sitting late was probably not doing well enough, but I think especially coming to Germany, I could see that because agar aapka there should be a specific time after you log out one day and the next day you log in. If the time is shorter than that defined interval, your boss is answerable to the authorities that you didn't manage that well. So why do we define and then we actually relate it to women more, where we know कि हमने उन पे family की responsibility भी ज़्यादा ही डाली हुई है, then why do we think it's okay or it's somehow superior to work late and stay late than somebody who's doing it within the working hours?
That's a great question, right? That's a great question. And again, I think it comes down to our perception of what work is and what productivity is. Is logging hours is what going to earn money to a business, or is it the end product that should really matter? And मेरा ख्याल है इसमें बहुत सारी चीजें चेंज होने वाली हैं इसमें. Over a period of time, hopefully, inshallah, things will change. And I think COVID has brought a lot of things with it. And I think this is one of the silver linings. Okay, a lot of people who are working from home, who are juggling different things, at the end of the day, you can't see how many hours they're logging in, but what you get to see is what are they producing, and the results is what really matters at the end of the day, right? So मेरा ख्याल है कि in due course of time, this will also change. And sometimes, we get arm twisted and changing our perception about things that we are holding very dear, and we think that is the reality. COVID did a great favor to all of us in that sense.
That's true. That's true. And I'm glad that there are successful people like you who look at things like this, and that's our hope that inshallah in years to come that would get better. इससे पहले कि हम जरा EME टाइम पे जाएं, मैं एक क्वेश्चन आपसे पूछना चाहती हूँ about inspiration. Is it an ongoing process? Like I get inspired from people. I just got inspired from you as well. So there are so many things. Again, like we said, it's not just about the fancy job title or anything, but there's something to learn from everyone all the time. Did you have a defined personality in your life, like you always looked up to, you got inspired, and how does this work for you, the overall concept of inspiration?
That's a very tricky question. But as far as the personality is concerned, my father, he was the person that I always looked up to, academically, intellectually, and also as an individual. He used to help a lot of families, even. So my mother was a school teacher. When my mother passed away, he would still go to the same school and help the needy students there. There were families that he was supporting. And most of those he kind of kept under a cover. Even we didn't know. We would know from those people instead of knowing from my father. So so as a personality, he was the figure for me. And at this stage of my life, the only people that I get impressed by are the ones who are helping others, and that's what I get inspired by, people who are helping others. I think it's a difficult thing कि आप अपनी life का एक portion निकालें और दूसरों को दें. Or in the fast-paced world that we are living in today, sometimes we, kind of get too much bogged down with our own things. उसमें आप pause का button दबाएं and you go out and extend a hand to somebody. And I'm not necessarily talking about monetary helping. I'm talking about, guiding others. So you've walked the path. Um, uh, how accessible are you in helping others walking the same path? Baz dafa, literally even one sentence or one piece of advice can just be a defining moment for somebody else. And you don't really realize. I've seen experiences where I was present for somebody and I was absent for somebody as well, and what the contrast has been. So yeah, for inspiration, my father has been there, and people who inspire me at this age of my life, or this stage of my life, are people who are really out there for others. So
Yes, absolutely agree with that. I think I can go on and talk about it for half an hour easily. But how do I look at this? That is so true. Please थोड़ा सा आते हैं EME के time की तरफ. Was it a good time? Do you miss it? Friends, everybody.
I miss the friends at EME, and you can say that by extension. I miss EME, but I really miss the time that I spent with a lot of friends. And college may generally, that's where you make all those the deep-rooted friends, right? People that I can still pick up the phone and call, and ask them anything. And I know that those bonds are strong, so strong for me. कि अगर 10 साल भी गुजर जाएंगे, you're going to continue where you last spoke to that person. So definitely a wonderful time with the friends. हमारे टाइम पे थोड़ी जरा फौजी टाइप की सख्ती काफी होती थी. Kind of get into the assembly at 6:30, 6:45. Name tag आपका ठीक नहीं है, जूते पॉलिसी में 50 रुपए उस पे, बाल ठीक नहीं कटे हुए 50 रुपए उसके ऊपर. कॉलेज से नहीं निकल सकते आप, अभी 2 नहीं बजे आउट पास लें. So uh, so yeah, the college itself was great because of the people that I met in that place.
I think ये सबकी memories का part है. कोई भी EME MCS military colleges वाला कभी भी नहीं भूल सकता कि वहाँ पे क्या क्या rules थे. But again, शायद उनके भी कुछ फायदे थे, especially military backing की वजह से जो resources थे. That has
Right.
much where it is today. Thank you so much. I can go on and ask you for a lot of life lessons right now, but I think we are running short of time, so I'll have to end the interview. But inshallah, we'll try. If in the years to come, we can invite you once again and learn more about yourself, and also when you have more piece of advices for younger generation, for younger alumni and people who look up to you. But अभी मुझे इंटरव्यू खत्म करना पड़ेगा. Thank you so much. आपके टाइम का I learned a lot today. I'm sure the people who are watching must have learned as well. So thank you so much for taking the time out.
Thank you very much again, Sana, for having me over. It was a pleasure talking to you about certain things, aspects of my life journey, and things that I think I could share with other folks, and they might find beneficial or useful.
Definitely. That's so true. Thank you so much. Thank you everyone for watching as well. Allah Hafiz.